The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Night Ranger on May 16th and Ashley McBryde on May 17th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Tomorrow marks the 10th anniversary of AMC's Mad Men airing its series finale on May 17th, 2015. Earlier that spring, I was there when the cast and crew donated memorabilia to the Smithsonian National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. Creator and showrunner Matthew Weiner was excited to be there.
This is an incredible experience. Like most of America, I visited the Smithsonian as a school child, and when I heard about this possibility, I said to my wife, "Oh my God, we're going to be on a field trip." I want to thank the museum for having an interest in this, and I want to thank the museum for always taking an interest in what is actual life in the United States. I had an interest in advertising. I'm frequently asked about that, and I always saw it, as people in advertising do, as a reflection of the American public. Selling is also part of the American public, and to provide a forensic history of the business workings of the United States was also on my mind. But what I love about the Smithsonian, what I love about these objects being here, is that these are, for the most part, actual objects. They are not recreations. And the idea of recreating a piece of culture that is that recent, where such a huge chunk of your audience has lived through it and the artifacts still exist in real life, and to think that we're going to have a statue that says Homo sapiens 1960. It's gratifying to glorify the average person and to talk about the way we live.
AMC Network President Charlie Collier also took the podium.
Thank you all for being here. I typically start the morning presenting over alcohol and cigarettes. Is what I do. You know, they say that all good things must come to an end, and all great things come to the Smithsonian. Thank you for welcoming us here today as we celebrate Mad Men and usher this iconic series into American cultural history.
And cast members Jon Hamm, Christina Hendricks, and John Slattery posed next to their props and costumes, as Hamm quipped about his signature Don Draper suit.
Did Janie approve that pocket square?
The following month, I hopped on the phone with Mad Men co-producer and advertising consultant Joshua Weltman. I'm here with Joshua Weltman, who Jon Hamm has called the unsung hero of Mad Men for his real-life experience in advertising and consulting as a co-producer of the show. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Why do you think it is Jon Hamm says you're the unsung hero? How closely do they actually consult with you on a show-by-show basis?
Well, starting I think he was very nice to say that. I think Matt Weiner, who's the executive producer and creator of Mad Men, and the creator of Don Draper, has insisted from day one that Don be good at his job, and he's a stickler for detail. And he brought me in to the show season 1 to work with the writers and executive producers to help develop the business stories and the advertising campaigns that you see on the show. And he wanted it done the way they did it back then. And back then they had the art directors work with the writers and teams. So he brought me into the writer's room. I'm an art director. I worked with the writers from the beginning of the first season, not the pilot show, but after that. to develop the advertising campaigns and business stories that you see on the show.
So how does that actually work? So the writers are saying, hey, we want to do Lucky Strike this time. We have this idea to say that it's toasted, or we have this scene with Hershey, or whatever the product is, and then they sit in a room with you and say, how would this believably go down, or how does that actually work?
Well, I sit in a room with them. There's like 8 of them and 1 of me. So yeah, I would sit in the writer's room 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week, and talk about. They would tell me where they wanted to go and with the story, and sometimes they had ideas for products that they wanted to use to get there, and sometimes we talk about different ways to get from here to there. In advertising, you're always sort of trying to get to a financial payoff, but in the story, in the entertainment world, you're looking to get to an emotional payoff. So we would talk about how what sort of business stories will get the characters where Matt wanted them to go.
Now, did you have any input on The Wheel, which was the season 1 finale, the Kodak Carousel? That it's the famous one, and actually, it just that script was just enshrined along with a lot of other props and costumes down here in the Smithsonian, down here in DC. So I was wondering, did you have any input on that one?
Yeah, that was particularly satisfying because I think that was a great moment and defining moment of the show, and we had started out. I think the first product that I worked with the first season was Right Guard. Matt wanted to talk about space age products and aerosol products and men and women's products, and then we had worked our way up through a product where I think Matt was looking for something that told the audience how Don was feeling about his family, about his brother's suicide, about his business in general, and me and researchers who would go through the New York Times advertising section every morning and read what was going on in 1960 or 1961. I think we found that the Kodak slide projector, the carousel slide projector, came out that year, and figured out how to make that story work to do exactly what Matt wanted it to do with the character.
So you found it by literally turning pages of old 1960
Yeah.
New York Times?
Yeah.
Wow. So how does that work? So you already have in your mind the idea that, Don's got to deal with the family and his suicide. And even more broadly, I mean, that whole speech kind of talks to why the show is so great itself, nostalgia, dealing with pain from an old wound, and et cetera. In fact, each season of the show could almost be a slide in that carousel, if you know what I mean. So you have all this in mind, and you're just turning the pages and you see Kodak Carousel? Is it like a light bulb goes off?
Yeah, at least it did for me. I mean, Matt wrote the speech, and that sales pitch at the end is beautiful and heart-wrenching and all those things. And early on in the season, there's a scene where I think Don is at one of his kids' birthday party, and he had a Super 8 camera. And I remember that when we were talking about the period and sort of the guys, veterans of Korean War and World War II, before home computers and before the world went digital, the gadgets of the time. I remember my father sitting after dinner sorting through slides, and making slides. They were into audio, stereo equipment, and single lens reflex cameras and Super 8 videos, and all that sort of stuff was really a part of the period. And when we were flipping through the paper and we saw that the Kodak slide projector came out, I thought of the idea that Don could use some slides of his own, of his family life, to develop a pitch for a slide projector, and I think that's what sort of got the ball rolling on that one.
It really is a brilliant scene. Let's talk a little bit about your book. So you just wrote a book called Seducing Strangers. The subtitle is The Little Black Book of Advertising Secrets. I know one thing you talk in there about is the secret purpose of advertising is to make people happy, which we absolutely see translate to the show. There's that whole speech Don gives about, the purpose of a billboard is that reassurance that says whatever you're doing is okay. How do you go into that in the book?
Well, I had nothing to do with that. That was in the pilot, and that was Matt figured that out on his own. But I always thought that the reason companies advertise is to set expectations for their products and services. And I think that when happiness happens when reality exceeds our expectations, and when companies provide products and services that exceed the expectations that they've set for them, they get happy customers.
And of course, you never run out because happiness only breeds, it's only a momentary thing
before you need more happiness, right?
So you never run out of stuff to sell.
No, our expectations are always changing depending on, what we've achieved and what we haven't and, the situation.
Now, your book also talks about the 4 types of ads. Do you want to rattle them off real quick?
Well, I think, in my experience, I've in 25 years of advertising, I've only created 4 types of ads. I've created ads that answer basically 4 fundamental questions that consumers have before buying a product. What is it? Why do I need it now? What makes it different? And who else thinks it's good? And so those are the 4 sort of types of ads that have worked for me. Advertising people, marketing people, creative people hate rules, but these are the ones that I seem to find myself working on all the time.
Absolutely. And before we go, I think the perfect final question is, explain Be Willing to Walk Away a Winner. Not just the interview, but,
yeah, be willing to walk away a winner. That's when you go into the meeting and get the answer that you came for, stop selling.
And with that, I'll cut you loose. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.